Next, our agenda calls for us to meet none other than the Assistant Administrator of the Office of Small Business Programs with NASA, Mr. Glenn Delgado. But before we do that, we actually want to watch a short video that actually will show us what NASA is doing. It's important for us to understand the breadth and the length and the depth of what NASA does, because we all know that NASA is the space station and the space shuttle, but they do so much more. And so this is an opportunity for us to learn exactly what NASA is doing and how we can partner with them to make sure that they meet their goals and shore up our economy and help our small businesses. So at this time, we'll watch this video.
Very good.
Associate Administrator Glenn Delgado not only is an accomplished business professional, but he is a seasoned contracting officer. We got a chance to talk earlier. He has over 25 years of government contracting experience before coming to the small business program and helping small businesses understand and connect. So we have one that not only knows this, but has walked the walk and talked the talk. So at this time, let us greet Associate Administrator Glenn Delgado as he helps us to understand what NASA is doing.
Yeah, that was a quite interesting video. It's the first time I got to see it too. We just got to work on the bass a little bit, I think. But other than that, it was really good. And thank you, Terry, for getting that done. So I don't even have to pretend I got to put on glasses so I can see stuff. So I'm accepting the fact that I'm getting older, so we have to deal with that. First of all, I do like to thank Mr. Hands for offering the building our host. I greatly appreciate being here. And then Daryl, greatly appreciate you doing the introduction and working with the PTAC. I've always supported PTAC since I was a wee contracting officer, so I know the importance of what you guys do, and I greatly appreciate it. Mark Pirelli, the Illinois Small Business Development Center Networks, I appreciate everything you guys did. And Ms. Neely and Ms. Curry, thank you guys very much for all the support and getting this stuff done. Now, the reason that we're here is we've been around a lot doing outreach events, and a lot of it's at places next to our centers. I think we've already plowed that ground so much we can't get too many more new businesses in our business space because they've been there, done that, seen that already, and we've harvested that land very well. So we were tasked with trying to find ways to increase our industrial base, so we decided to go to places that we've never been before. Ms. Parker, my team who set this up, as a matter of fact, we were asked to go places we don't have centers, places we've never seen, find businesses that have never done business with us before. So that's what we're here to do today. We're trying to do that. One of our guys, Mr. Brock, brought a lot of this to our attention. He went up to Boston. We don't have any presence up there, and he found quite a few businesses that work with him that do machine shops. They build the rocket that we're getting ready to use, the SLS, and he's got a lot of business. So I'm like, maybe this stuff will work. So we're going out here to Chicago, we're going to Illinois, we're going to Seattle, places that we've never been, and we are starting to increase our industrial base. And I really hope that we get out of here today with a lot more people in our industrial base that can help us do some business. Now, I guess I have the clicker. Let's see if we know how to work this. And that's the laser. Let's go this way. Here we go. Okay, so just to give you an idea, and one thing you'll learn about me, I do not read slides, so I trust that you'll read them. And I think these are going to be available through the PTAC, or if not, just call our office, and there's a slide on the back that'll help you to get to it. As you can see, this is just our final numbers for FY17. We don't have 18 yet because it doesn't end until the end of September. But last year we spent $16.4 billion with a B. Okay, so that's a lot of money that goes out the door. And if you look at just what we did prime directly to small businesses, $2.7 billion a year is what we average going out the door to small businesses. So we do utilize small businesses, and we utilize them a lot. And you see the other breakdowns of the SDBs, the Women-Owned Hub Zones, and Service Disabled Vet. But personally, if I were you, I wouldn't mind getting my hands on some of that $2 billion, and that's prime directly to you. Now, we have our large primes here also, and I'll get into those in a second, but we get another $2.8 $8 billion out of our prime businesses where they do subcontracts to small businesses. So it's not a bad thing to work for a large prime to be a subcontractor, because you might not be ready to work directly with the government. Because I can tell you now, half the people I ask that have government contracts, I ask, do you really wish you had them? And they say no, because it's not easy, okay, being a prime to the government. So it's easy to start cutting your teeth and, to work as a subcontractor. And believe me, no matter wherever you work as a sub, the people that you're working for in the government, they know who's doing the actual work. They know it's you. And then when it's time for you to start priming, they'll realize that you're ready to do it. And you've already built a relationship. Just like everything you do in life, okay, you don't give money to people you don't know, okay? You do business with people you have a relationship with, okay, that you know and you trust. And that's one way to start cutting your teeth, is to do subcontracting work, okay, because you might not be ready for the big dance yet. But you can go to the junior prom, okay? It's not a bad thing. Okay, and this gives you an idea of how we've been doing over the last couple of years. You can see that our prime numbers have really starting to go up. We're doing really well. FY13 we had an abnormal year. There was a little company called SpaceX that you guys might know. At that time, they were a small business, so I was living in a lap of luxury back then, because every time SpaceX launched, I got credit for a small business sale there. And that's, a couple $100 million every time they launch. So you can see I came back to reality in FY14, did a lot of crying. But since then, we've had a steady climb, because we're doing a lot more different outreach. We're doing things to make sure we include small business with us. Then we've also been really working with our primes to make sure that they are meeting all their subcontracting goals, because every time we issue a contract to our large prime contractors, we set goals for them to meet with the small businesses that they have to do business with. And as you can see, they are very dependable. And for the first time in our history, they actually did more money to the small businesses than we did, okay, which is astronomical. We have many of them here. I think they're all huddled up on that side of the room over there, but you'll start meeting them when you're doing matchmaking. I mean, we have Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Jacobs, Orbital, ATK, SAIC, Sierra Nevada, and CSRA here. That's just a couple of the large primes we're dealing with. And our large primes really support us. As you can see, they come to these events with us all the time. A lot of our outreach events, they're there with us because they know they need to meet their subcontracting goals, and they also need to find quality small businesses to do work with. So I advise you, at matchmaking time, make sure you learn who they are and talk to them. I can tell you now, the majority of them are at that table there, if you guys want to raise your hands, so you can get a look at who they are. Then I see some of my people raising hands too, but as you said, we have all of our team here too. He said you will see everybody from all 10 centers, but unfortunately 2 of them couldn't make it due to illnesses and family stuff. But the rest of most of my team, because I don't ever call them staff or anything like that, I'm just happy to be part of the team. They carried me all the way. But if you guys in the back here, all the NASA small business specialists and our legal team and our procurement team, you guys can raise your hand over there. You'll meet most of them when you're doing matchmaking also. Okay, so just to give you an idea, our scorecard. They did slide this one in. They didn't put it on my copy because I got it too late. But you can see our scorecard. See, most of this was supposed to be a surprise for them. They didn't know this yet. It came out on Friday. So all my SBSs didn't know this until I was going to introduce it tomorrow and let them be really happy. But they saw this today. It came out on Friday afternoon that we got our A, which is the first time in a couple of years. As you can see, we've been steadily building and trying to get our job together and do our act, and we finally got our A for the first time in about 6 years. So I'm very proud of everybody in our organization and team, but still act surprised when I show it to you tomorrow. Okay? This is give you an idea of some of the stuff we're graded on, but you guys don't really need to see all this stuff. This is more for them. But we get graded on how we do meeting all of our goals, each of the subcategories, and looking at our subcontracting achievement and all that kind of stuff. So we'll skip that now, go back to what you really needed. Okay, this is where all the NASA centers are located. You can see most of them there. We have headquarters. So a lot of people don't know headquarters even exist. Okay, even though we control a lot of the money, we don't spend a dime. Okay, all the money is spent at the 10 centers. We lay out all the policies, procedures, all that kind of stuff. So when people come to see me, I need to really get into the small business program, like, hey, I don't spend a dime. Okay, all $16 billion are spent at the 10 centers. Okay, so that's who you gotta get to know. That's who has the requirements and not who has the money. We at headquarters, we divvy it out to them, yes, but we don't spend it, they spend it. We might tell them what projects we want, but they're the ones who execute the projects. So those are people that you really gotta talk to and meet. Okay, now for those, I'm assuming 95% of you guys know what NAICS codes are. Okay, and if you don't, find a PTAX, because that's what they're here to teach you. But NAICS codes are basically how work is divvied up throughout the federal government. Everybody does NAICS codes. And you'll hear people talk about, make sure you do your homework, because that's the key thing. If you come to us telling us what you can do to solve our problems versus knocking on our door and say, I'm a woman-owned small business, what you got for me? Guess what, we ain't got nothing. Okay? You come here and say, I know you have this project and this is where you need help and this is how I can help you. I guarantee you the red carpet will roll out, the doors are open up, and you get to meet a whole lot of people. Okay? So do your homework first, and you'll hear this in a couple of states. So each one of our centers does something different. Okay, so we have research centers, we have space centers, we have science centers. Okay, and then we have our wonderful friend, and I forgot to introduce her as one of our large primes also, JPL, which is a federally funded research and development center. Technically, they're just like the Federal Reserve here, a quasi-government agency. Technically, you know, we give them quite a bit of money to do a lot of research for us, but they're not government, and they're kind of a prime contractor to us, but a different relationship. So we still love and take care of her very much so. But JPL, right off the bat, every year, which is our fiscal year starts, we give them a couple $1 billion off the top. That puts me in the hole, because from my accounting standpoint, they're a large business. So I got to dig out $1 billion plus right off the bat, almost $2 billion actually. So I still love you though, Felicia. Okay, this is the names and phone numbers and email addresses of all the people at all of our centers, our small business specialists. You can see the research centers, space centers, and science centers. Okay, and that's everybody's numbers. You can't, you know, it's easy to get to them. We make this very public. I'll wait a second. I see all the cameras taking pictures of that, but trust me, it's really easy to get our websites, and you'll see in a second. You can get all this off our website too. Okay, now one of the things that separates us from a lot of our other contenders or pretenders out there, I should say, is we put out what we call active contract listings. If you really look carefully at every federal agency, about between 65 and 75% of everything they spend each year is done on reoccurring buys, stuff that they've already brought before. Only about 30% of their budget's on something new that's starting out. And guess what? Some of that 30% can get clipped real quick, because that's where, if any budget cuts are to come, that's where it's coming from, something that's not existing, something that's not needed already, but stuff that we've already spent money on for the last 10 years. We need something like the lawn maintenance, facilities care, you know, building maintenance, all that kind of stuff. That money's gonna always be spent again, okay? So what we do is we set up what we call active contract listings, where we segregate them out by different things like engineering, facilities, information systems, office supplies, security, you know, protective services. And we actually show you the contract name, and I'll just show you one of them right now. Let's see if I can get to it yet. So like for this one's our administrative services contract. We show you what center has it, what NAICS code it's under, okay, the actual contract name, because we name them some funky stuff on occasion, a lot of acronyms where the government, so we invented that stuff. We actually tell you the contract number, who the incumbent contractor is, okay, how we competed for it last time, whether it was an 8A set aside, service disabled, a full and open, small business set aside, the total dollar value of it, but most importantly, the date that the contract is going to end. Because if you know anything about the government, we do our procurement cycle 18 to 24 months in advance. So if this thing's gonna end in 2021, and back in 18-19, we're starting our planning process to recompete that, so that everything is up and running by the time that contract runs out. So if you wait until the RFP comes out the street, which is like 6 months maybe before the thing expires, you're way behind the power curve. You will never be able to really get a government contract, because everybody else started 15, 18, 20 months ago, putting their team together, putting their proposals together. So when the RFP comes out on the street, they are good to go. Okay, so these are the types of documents you need to see when you have the small business specialist with you. You say, oh, this is right in my NAICS code, this is right what I'm looking at, it's coming out again in about 18 to 20 months. Who could I meet? What do I know? So I can look at this. Now, one thing too is NASA has a very, very good FOIA page, which is Freedom of Information Act. So if anybody has ever queried about that contract before, it's up on our FOIA webpage. You can get it for free. Okay, so you can get a copy of the contract, a copy of the statement of work. You're not going to get pricing information, of course, but you can get all the technical stuff. And you can look and see, oh, I can do this, or I need help doing this, so let me get somebody to team with me, and we can put together a proposal, and we can go out and bid on this thing. But if you don't start doing that 15, 18 months in advance, you're toast. Okay, so we have IT contracts, the same thing. And I say that whole list I showed you at the beginning here, we have sheets for every one of these types of things. So whatever kind of business you're in, you can ask us for the ACL, and we'll give it to you. And then we're like spoon feeding you your homework. Okay, we're opening our kimono, as I say. We're going like this. There you go, everything we have. Okay, we're showing it to you. We're telling you, this is what you need to go after. This is what you have to do your own homework in. Okay, I mean, I can't spoon feed you anymore. Okay. Okay, so hopefully, if you have questions, feel free anytime while I'm up here. I don't have a problem with that. Now, one of the other good things that NASA has is a mentor-protege program. Okay, before there were a lot of 11 federal agencies basically had mentor-protege programs. Was the NDAA 2012, I think it was the one that made it where SBA is going to basically take over the world of mentor-protege programs. They ended up doing that, and they revamped their mentor-protege program to make it look like the 8A program that used to be in effect, where they had JVs and things of that nature. So if the federal agency did not have a good, unique program, they shut it down. A lot of mentor-protege programs got shut down. Only 3 of them were approved, and guess who's one of the 3? Because ours was good. So NASA, DHS, and DOE were the only ones that got approved out of the 11 to stay afloat. And our small business, our mentor-protege program is doing really well. As a matter of fact, our program manager sitting over there looking aimlessly out there. She's doing a great job, and I can't tell her enough how much she's doing with that. We're very successful in it, and that's another way that you learn how to do business with the government. Those who don't know what it is, the large primes that are sitting over there, a lot of them have mentor-protege agreements. They bring the small businesses under their wing and teach them how to put together proposals, how to chase work, how to do new technical procedures they've never done, how to get certified, with ISO and things of that nature. And then you're starting to be ready again to do work on your own. Okay, so you might want to look into the mentor-protege program. Okay, we have a killer app. We get attention for this all the time. So I'm not a real IT kind of guy, but Tabby does an excellent job in getting this stuff done. I hear so many raves and reviews about how good our app is, and that's another place you can get every one of the ACLs from, is by downloading our app. We update those things monthly too, so there's not stale data, and you can look at everything that NASA's doing. You can look at all our goals and all that kind of stuff on this app. It's really good. Okay, now another thing that we've been tasked with by SBA is we have to start a little bit stepping on PTAC's toes. We have to start training small businesses. So we're doing a lot of webinars and podcasts. Ms. Khalees is doing all that stuff for us. Just to give you an idea, these are some of the topics that we're doing and the dates that we're doing them. I can tell you now we had to go to a bigger bandwidth because every one of our sessions was sold out, because we had room for like 100 or 200, and then we had to go borrow somebody else's line, which was like over 300, and we still sold that one out to where everybody was connected. So we're, I can tell you now, when you see something that you think you need to learn about, it's a good thing to sign on early, because if not, you might get locked out because over 300 people have already logged into it. So I don't know exactly how it works, but Tabby can tell you about all that. But I understand that the people are ranting and raving about the information that comes out of them. So a lot of these things are something that are important. Let's see if they have that one on there that I'm looking at. Like the new invoicing one on the end is really good. Procurement update, what small businesses need to know. Monica Manning, she's the new head of all NASA procurement, so that's a good person to listen to too. So there's a bunch of good things on there that are worthwhile. Okay, one other thing that you guys need to put on your radar, this is a federal-wide mandate, it's called category management. There's 10 categories that the federal government as a whole is looking at, and they're going to try and dwindle down or actually asked all the federal agencies to use 1 or 2 contracts in these areas on a federal-wide basis. So say, for instance, NASA has 10 or 15, 20 contracts that do facilities and construction. They're going to set up basically what they call a best-in-category contract and try and drive the entire government just to use that one contract. So they'll have like 25, 30 people under that contract. It'll be a multiple award, but they're going to try and funnel every agency in the federal government to use that contract. Not really good for a lot of small businesses. And even if it's awarded to a small business, right now we have, say, 50 small businesses doing it, it's going to be cut down to 5 to 10 small businesses doing it. So, but those guys will get rich and fat real quick, but everybody else is going to be left out in the cold. So it's something that you guys need to put on your radar, understand, talk to your lobbyist people and say, not a good thing, people, okay, stuff like that. So if you don't know anything about category management, I advise you to find out some stuff about category management, okay? I talked to you about doing your homework before. Just to give you a very quick idea of how it works in the government, we send out things called requests for information, synopsises. And what we do is we send out a note to everybody in industry. It says, we publish it in FedBizOpps and say, we're getting ready to do X, Y, and Z. We need your answer to like these 6 questions. And you have to answer those 6 questions, not staple a copy of your capability brief and mail it back to us, because that didn't answer the 6 questions. Based on our reply, we the small business people sit with the technical and requirements people and say, yeah, we have 25 companies that responded. 10 of them are small businesses. It looks like they can do it and they will bid, so we're going to make it a small business set aside. Or none of the small businesses really answered the mail. They just stapled their capability brief. We got to go full and open because small businesses didn't respond to our requirement. So then, of course, once we announce it, we're going full and open. Then I get 40 small businesses calling me, why didn't you do it as a set aside? Because none of you replied. I can't do it because no one replied. We have to go full and open. Okay, so that is how we do it. And if you don't reply, you tie our hands. We cannot make it a small business set aside. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So when you see the source of SOTs and the RFIs out there, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your competitors, so at least you know who's in the pool that you're swimming in instead of out in the big ocean, okay? Because it's going to be full and open otherwise. But if you tell your friends and your competitors, at least you know who's in that little pond swimming with you, okay? That way you don't get eaten up. As I said earlier, you got to build a relationship. Your only real best way into the door of any federal agency is with the small business specialists, because they're the ones that they get to know you, they get to know what you're looking for, they can do all the introductions to the people with the requirements and with the money, okay? And you build a relationship with them, but that last one, don't be a stalker, okay? Because we will talk about you, okay? So every now and then, touch base with them, send them some stuff, go to outreach events, go to mixers, go to, different types of briefings they might have. A lot of centers have their own little outreach or matchmaking. Go meet them and you'll start seeing the people. All of our centers have what we call small business councils. So you go to the council meetings, you can meet everybody else that's with you in that pool. A lot of their large primes are there also, so you can meet their large primes. And when we do counseling a lot, like a few of our centers are mixed in with military bases, like Armstrong and Marshall. So when they do matchmaking or have an introduction, they not only have us there, they have our large primes there, and they also have the Air Force or Army sitting there too. So you can learn how to do business with all of us at one time, one-stop shopping. So it makes it a lot easier. Okay. Use your resources, like the acquisition forecast that I just talked to you about. Use your trade associations. It's a good thing to be a part of one, because you can make your concerns known up on the Hill for lobbying purposes, like commodity councils, things. Okay. There's some other resources. SBA is here today, I understand. SBA is a great one. Small Business Development Centers are really good, but my favorite is on the bottom there. The PTACs, they've always been one of my favorites, and you guys, he's talking about it easy. They teach you how to do stuff really cheap, if not free. Okay, they teach you how to get an accounting system. They teach you how to market. They teach you everything that you need to know how to run a business, and that's your first stop shopping. They'll get you ready to work with the federal government if you've never worked with the federal government before, and they almost do it for free. Sometimes it's a $35 charge, but whoopee. Okay, so I think it's worth the money. Okay, this is, we do a lot of social media. We have a very good Twitter account. I guess we have about 12,000 followers. which is pretty good. Facebook, we got about, bunch, 274,000 followers. People actually read my blog, which is kind of interesting. I don't read it myself, but no, I mean, I write it up. I have a ghostwriter that I do approve them. But we do talk about a lot of good stuff on there. So it's worthwhile looking at if you want to get an idea how to do business with NASA. The important stuff is that we're easy to find, small business at nasa.gov, it's not real tough. Okay, and then OSBP is Office of Small Business Programs.nasa.gov. And then our NASA vendor database, you're going to hear about that a little later today, I think, from Ms. Parker. But if you're interested in doing business with NASA, I strongly suggest you get into the NASA vendor database, because if we see something in your NAICS code that we send out has a request for information or a source of sought, we notify you through that database that, hey, we're putting something out. So if you sign up for it, we can easily just send you out a little notice that this is going out on the street, look for it. Okay, so life was good on that aspect.
Is that different than this ops?
Yes, totally different. At FedBiz Ops, you can sign up that way too, but this one is strictly NASA. So we know you're interested in really, doing business with us. So that's what we look at with this, our NASA vendor database. Okay, I'll leave that up for a second since I see a lot of people writing. So I think the next one just says hello and goodbye. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm kind of easy to talk to. I'll be here all day. Actually, what's the thing? I'll be here all week, but no, all day. So if you have any questions, don't be shy. I'm a very approachable kind of guy to ask. So, but you guys look like you're either all asleep, we have to get you up and do calisthenics, or what? I don't know. So, but any other questions? No? Should we give somebody money to ask the first question? Yeah, we got one. Basically improved our subcontracting dollars was a big one. Our large primes really helped toe the bail on that by increasing the amount of work that they did to small business and us being able to track it better, to be honest with you. Before, anybody who knows the ESRS system, which tracks subcontracting, it was kind of weak. So we found a way to enhance our ability to track the dollars to the large primes. So we're getting more credit for it than we were previously. And also the hard work of our small business specialists, working with our procurement people and our technical people to set aside more work for small businesses. And us out here preaching for you guys to reply to the source of sought. And we're seeing more increases in the replies so we can set stuff aside. Yes, ma'am. I hope that I answered your question. Okay.
How do we know that the vendors are not up for renewal?
How do we know the vendor what?
Renewal of the
Oh,
contract?
no, it's not gonna, well, they have to recompete just like everybody else. Okay, so I won't say most of them don't go for the recompete, but I can tell you now the success rate of primes winning again is, about 50-50 sometimes, because a lot of times the primes think they're a shoo-in for it, and there's a lot of more hungrier people that put in better proposals, and a lot of times the primes are going, how come I didn't win? So it's not unusual for a prime not to win because they sometimes get complacent. So then they'll show the hunger of somebody else out there. Yes, sir.
Is there a posting resource with primes and posting that you would like to from subs? That
True disappeared. I believe we do have a thing now in our NASA vendor database for a subcontracting module where small businesses can put this is what they're looking to do in subcontracting work, and our large primes have access to that now. We just set that up like 6 months ago, probably, or 8 months, somewhere in that range. So it's a new feature to the NASA vendor database where you guys can do that. But where most of the work and connections are done is at the center level with the small business councils, because the large primes that are doing work at that center are usually there, and the small businesses are there. That's where you start building networks and relationships with the large primes. They know what you're doing. You know that they're going out to compete for that work. Is that you can tell them this is what I can do for you, and you start building your relationships. This whole thing's relationships. So if you're face to face with people at meetings, you get a lot better done than just sending a lot of stuff over the computer, because that has a tendency to hit a delete button. Okay, but face to face, it's kind of hard to hit on the head to make it go away. So, okay, thank you. There's a lot of different ways. Each contract is somewhat evaluated differently. They set up an evaluation plan from day one, and they make sure that it's in the RFP in sections L and M when they go out the door that tells you this is what we're going to ask you for and this is how we're going to evaluate it. Most of them are not just strictly price-based. Most of them are based on technology or tech, so that they look at it, they tell you exactly how they're going to do it. So there are different ways of doing it, like 4 or 5, but most of the time they have what we call a formula, that technical and management is more important than price and schedule, or price and schedule are more important than management. So they tell you exactly the riddle they're going to use to do the evaluation. Okay, you again? Yes? No, we publish those in FedBizOpps, the Federal Business Opportunities. We put them out there, but a lot of people, unless you have a B&D department, they don't have time to sit there and read those all day. So it's smart to set up an automated service they do, and they can send you stuff that of interest to you and it'll hit your computer. So that's the smartest way to do that. Okay, I don't know what the time schedule looks like, but I think time's up. Oh, okay. Choose giving me the hook already. So, you ever seen Steve Harvey, the Apollo? I get the dancing guy that yanked me off the stage. But thank you guys very much, and hopefully you learned something today.